In this video, we'll show you how to froth milk without a frother. And be sure to stick around to the end because we've got something that may be a little surprising. Hello and welcome. This is Scott Fisher with Home Grounds, where our mission is to help you brew better coffee right at home. If you're a fan of cappuccinos, lattes, any other kind of a steamed or frothed milk drink, but you don't happen to have a milk frother or a steamer, you're not left out. You don't have to go to the cafe and pay coffee shop prices. You can steam or at least froth and heat milk right at home. We're going to show you a couple of different ways to do that. For years, I had an espresso maker, but no steam wand, and I actually got pretty good at coming up with froth using nothing but a small balloon whisk and a saucepan. It's the perfect way to heat the milk and agitate it, incorporate air into it, and you can get a decent head of foam. Maybe not enough to do latte art, but certainly enough to feel like you're getting a frothy milk drink. If you're familiar with using a wire whisk for making sauces or otherwise mixing things, you know that this kind of a whisk gives you great control, particularly if you have a saucepan that's wide enough across the top that you can get a good motion to incorporate the air. But you can also use one of these whisks. They're a lot easier to use. They don't require the chef's technique because all you really need to do is bounce them up and down. So we have some nice cold whole milk here. I love the flavor and the texture of whole milk, but if you really like the froth, low-fat or non-fat milk will give you bigger head of stiffer foam. For now though, I'm going to pour in just about 2 or 3 ounces of milk into my saucepan. Cover it back up to stay fresh. And we'll get to whisking. Now, before I get into this, if you have access to a home thermometer, you want to make sure that your milk stays about 150 degrees Fahrenheit, 155 at the top. At approximately 158 F, the lactose will start to scorch. It will ruin the flavor. You'll lose that sweetness that you're looking for in warming and steaming milk. Our milk is starting to steam, so this is the time to start whisking. I like to tilt so that it gets a little bit deeper, and you use a oval movement. I hope you can see this on the camera. We're already starting to see bubble. So as you can see, we've just about doubled in volume. There's a nice bit of froth here, and as I said before, if you really want it stiff, you can use non-fat or low-fat milk. But for here, I think we're just about ready to pour. I've already brewed a pot of a wonderful dark roast Sumatran that I'm going to use for a cortado. Now a cortado, if you recall, is approximately 50% coffee and 50% milk. Give it a last little whisk and let's start pouring. You do make a little bit of a mess, but as you can see, I can't really do any better than that in the La Pavoni steam wand. Pretty straightforward cortado, about 50% coffee, 50% steamed milk. You can see at the top that we've got a good centimeter, maybe 3/4 of an inch, of the foam at the top of it, and it's kept its consistency. Let's test it for flavor. Yes, it has that sweet milk flavor, and we were careful to keep it under 155. You'll eventually get the experience to be able to do that, but we really do recommend using a cooking thermometer while you're learning. Using a whisk and a saucepan on the stovetop is a great way to get frothed milk that you can really use in anything. Yes, you can make a cappuccino, you can make, as I did here, a cortado. You just adjust the amount of milk to the amount of coffee and you can make lattes or macchiatos or whatever you want. The other nice thing, although we love the taste of strong coffee, whether it's a mocha pot or a true espresso in a milk drink, you can do this just with a pour over. You can do this with something from the percolator. It's killer with a French press. If you're a fan of cold brew, you can try using the milk to dilute your cold brew concentrate. So instead of using 4:1 of ice water with the coffee, you use 4:1 of the milk to the coffee. It gives you a completely different flavor and texture. In fact, some people say, especially if you like sweetened cold brew, it has been likened to drinking melted coffee ice cream, which is never a bad thing. To aerate cold milk, it's even simpler than the last technique. You take your nice chilled milk, and once again, this is the whole milk. You want to choose a container where the milk doesn't come much more than about 1/3 of the way through. That way you'll get a chance to get a lot of air into it. We'll set this back down. And we're just using a mason jar, which if you are doing cold brew, you know that we have a great video on how you can make it in a mason jar. And then from here, you're just a milkshake machine. So gotta switch to the other hand so you don't get tired. I've been shaking this for about 30 seconds. It's still nice and cold, and as you can see, it's almost doubled in volume. Let's see what that looks like in a glass. We have a little bit more of that nice Sumatran dark roast, which I'm pouring over an ice cube to get it good and cold. Best of all possible worlds, you'd have your iced coffee or your cold brew. I'm going to give this just another slight shake. One thing you'll notice, although this does get air into it, it doesn't hold as well as heated milk. But you'll see. We pour it in. And there's some bubbles on top. Obviously, it's not quite as good at getting a nice firm, stiff head of steamed milk that you would for a latte or cappuccino, but yeah, it makes a fabulous iced coffee. Well, there you have it. 2 different ways of steaming or frothing milk to add to your coffee. One way that works, frankly, just about as well as an espresso machine's steam wand, and the other which is quick and easy, although it doesn't make the same kind of a stiff, persistent head. But you will aerate it, and in particular, if you use that milk in your cold brew, it really makes a wonderful, creamy, refreshing beverage. Have you frothed milk without a milk frother? Are you interested in doing something like this, whether it's for cold brew or something else? Let us know in the comments what your favorite techniques are. And until then, this is Scott Fisher with Home Grounds asking, how do you take your coffee?